Hello, everybody, and welcome to our very first Unicorns.LIVE Voices Unheard. I'm your host, Jessica Samuels, and I'm going to join you here every Tuesday night, and I look forward to doing so and sharing the underrepresented voices and stories that we come across in our community.
And I'm Dustin Dufault, also LLMer of Kelowna, and I will be your guest today, and I'm going to be talking about growing up fabulous in the North.
Awesome. We'll get to that in a moment. Before we get started, I would like to acknowledge that we work, live, and play on the ancestral, traditional, and unceded lands of the Okanagan Nation and Syilx people. I'd like to say thank you to Canada Kelowna Hotel and Conference Centre for providing this space to do this program here this evening. And I'd also like to say thank you to sponsors Kelowna Pride and Castanet. Now, we have to get back to this, growing up fabulous in the North. Tell me all about it. What does it mean? Where in the North, first of all?
We're in the North. Well, I'm originally from Yukon, Ross River, Yukon, so very, very north. And then we moved to BC in my teenage years to Grand Isle, so outside of Burns Lake. And just growing up fabulous is just taking a tiny bit of a community that can be kind of oppressive, but altering it so that you can feel safe in your own home kind of thing.
Okay.
That's my definition of growing up fabulous, because obviously I wasn't running around in heels up north, but like I would have like the little Brett that I'd steal from my sister, and I'd like pop it in my hair and look at myself in the mirror. You know?
And you were going about town like that? Were you getting looks? What was happening?
Well, always getting looks, because I was that boy that would wear the oversized shirt and then I'd put the belt over my shirt and like lift it up.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
But like in my head that was all normal. And it started my crusade against like hating gender, because everybody would be like, why are you wearing these feminine clothes? I'm like, who said this was feminine? Like, what person decided what was male and female? And it started like at a young age, I guess.
What age?
I'm gonna say probably like 11 or 10.
Okay.
Where I decided like I didn't care if I wanted to follow any of these rules.
Right.
And then that changed when I got into high school. Everyone gets a little bit more critical, shall we say, and I tried to do the whole boy role. And then, I guess here I am.
And here we are today. And so when you're doing that, did you understand it? Did you know what that meant for you? Did you put a definition on it, or were you just doing what felt good?
I'm going to say when I was younger, I was just doing what I wanted to do, what felt good to me. There was no game plan being like, I'm going to fight society this day. This is my little 10-year-old self running out the door. No, that wasn't my goal. It was just like, I wanted to put that belt to my shirt and fluff it out because the cute people on TV were doing that. So, and then as I got older, as I started like toning things down, going conservative, shall we say, and then when I got older and moved out of the home and moved to, Calgary was the first big city I moved to, it like, you ever hear that phrase, like when someone's from a small town, they go to a bigger city and they go gay, like very gay. Like I was tying ribbons to my belt,
okay.
like flowing it down. I started like back then they had the bell bottoms were back in style,
yeah.
flare jeans. So I was throwing those with like little cutoff shirts, thinking I was the hottest boy ever.
Right.
Looking back with pride on that, but also wondering like,
cringeworthy.
Yeah, exactly, a little bit. The photos are cringeworthy. Memories are good.
Okay. And when you're going through all these phases, stages, what role did your family play, and what was the response to those closest to you, your family, your friends?
Well, the responses were pretty good when I was younger. My dad didn't take too well to it, but my mother tried to let me do what I wanted to do. For Halloween, she'd always like make my dress for me. It was really cute. But and then when I got older, I don't know where this like little sense of shame comes out, but like it starts making you hide yourself. You're like, maybe my femininity needs to be toned down a bit and needs to be like suppressed. And then after I moved out and started realizing that I can do whatever I want, it started coming back again. And then talking back to your family, you realize that it was okay from the beginning. So I just don't know where these like internal seeds of shame come out to mask you, but then your parents tell you it's okay when you're older, and you're like, why was I doing this whole roller coaster ride when I really didn't need to?
Right. I mean, that own personal journey, I mean, your journey could be different from other people that are watching here tonight, but when you say high school and the pressure, I think there's so many of us who just go, oh, high school, just who am I? What am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to wear? What group do I fit into? So I can only imagine that you have those same layers with so many other layers upon it.
And then growing up in a small town, it's even different. But I also grew up in a very small town. Like when I say small town, it was like 250 people. Okay. My school went from kindergarten to grade 12 and there was like 50 students. So it was a very, very small school. And like literally walk down the street and people would calling, be like, hey, I saw your son walking down the street. It's 9 a.m. What is he doing? It was a very small town.
Okay, so a small town, and then you talk about high school, and then you talk about Calgary. So where does your heart lay? Never mind in terms of your evolution and who you are and how you dress, but in terms of that small town feel and that sense of community. Do you still get that in places like here in Kelowna, in Calgary?
Well, in Kelowna, I can say that I've made my strongest connections here. So I have like my closest friends. I met my husband here. So you create your own little small community, and then sometimes you kind of get stuck in that community, which is great, because if you have all that love and support there, what's the point of bridging out from that? But I feel like you can always get that sense of community wherever you go, if you're willing to let yourself open yourself up to it.
Right. A little bit of vulnerability involved with that, though.
A lot of vulnerability, yes.
Yeah.
But like, I feel like growing up and accepting my path in life helps you open up. And then once you realize and love yourself, I don't really call it vulnerability, or just showing strength, letting someone into your life.
Okay. Yeah, I like the way you phrase that. So you just said that your path in life, so Two-Spirit,
yes, and
also a drag performer.
Yes.
So let's talk about Two-Spirit.
Okay.
And I'd like, of course, I've done some research, I've done some reading. I'd like to hear you explain for me and for others, what does Two-Spirit mean?
Yeah, well, Two-Spirited, in my own opinion, means that I can funnel between the male and the feminine, and then be one at the same time. I know that Two-Spirited isn't supposed to be synonymous with gay First Nations, because it's not necessarily the same. But I hear a lot of people say that it's like an umbrella term to funnel anyone that's in the queer realm. But from the research that I've done as well, because I didn't fully understand the term when I first heard it, mostly because I was just a gay male. Once again, still not fully embracing my feminine side. And then I remember tying in drag now with this. When I first started doing drag, there was still that little bit of like, should I do this? Should I do that? Am I exposing too much of who I am by doing drag? And then once becoming fully immersed in that and realizing that this feminine half is 100% a part of me, not just male and female, I identify fully with both of them, made me go back and look into Two-Spirited more to realize that it was like a ceremonial term that a lot of people were using to represent their place in life. I don't know if I'm explaining that well enough.
Well,
I know that it was first made as an umbrella term for Pan-Indian, which is a phrase that I'm not a huge fan of. But it's a way to unify us outside of a colonial realm, which I'm 100% for. Because I feel like colonial realm or European culture sees gender and sex very binary, where in First Nations, that's not a thing. There's like third gender and a fourth gender. And if I remember correctly, I think third gender was like man living as a woman, and fourth gender was women living as a man. So there was more variants of it. I totally forgot where I was going with all this.
No, it's not as straight line as if you are Two-Spirited, you are this or you are that. And I encountered the same thing, that there was female, male, male, female, male, like there's all these, and quite a bit of historical association with the term being Two-Spirited.
Yeah.
So I want to go back to something that you said. You said that you're not a fan of, was it Pan-Indian?
Pan-Indian.
Okay, why not?
Because there's so many different First Nations cultures all across Canada and the States, and to say that we're Pan-Indian puts us all as one, right? And I don't want to just say we're one culture, where there's so many different beautiful cultures and variations of it that Pan-Indian into someone is just going to say we're all just the same. So I understand why they wanted to make Two-Spirited like a Pan-Indian word, because it unifies all of us as a people under one one word, which is beautiful in its own right. But I also don't want people to think that two-spirited is a thing that all Aboriginal cultures identify with, because a lot of them don't agree with the term. A lot of them have their own special terms for it, which is beautiful as well. My culture doesn't have a term for it, so that's why I grabbed on the two-spirited, and I loved where it came from. I believe it came, like they coined it on a lesbian and gay First Nations conference in Winnipeg, some in the early 90s.
Exactly.
And they, like I said, it was a purposeful word made to separate us from a colonial realm, because our culture has so many different genders, not just the two.
Right. And so what do you think is a common misperception about two-spirited?
I think a misconception is, people might get mad when I say this, is that I don't think that it's a word for everyone. Even if you're a gay First Nations, if you just identify as a male, I don't know if that fully falls within it. That's, like I said, people could be getting mad at me when I say this, but like if you identify with two-spirited, I'm not going to tell you no, unless you're a white person. So,
That's a hard no, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. It's a hard no.
Got it.
But
Okay.
like, I'm not here to tell someone how to identify. I don't think that's how it is. This is just how I see the word as. And I believe a lot of cultural ways of seeing two-spirited is because it was a ceremonial position. You were brought in to help with ceremony, certain ceremonies. And because you're able to bridge between the feminine and the male.
Right, because so two-spirited is, you may not necessarily be bridging between the male and female if you were a gay male.
Yeah.
Is that, am I hearing that right?
Well, because like a lot of gay First Nations are just identified as male, which is great. Like that's who they identify. That's their being. To me, that doesn't say two-spirited within it. You know.
Okay. When did you start using the term for yourself?
I fully became comfortable with it about 4 years ago, but then even though I was comfortable identifying with it, I still wouldn't tell people I was two-spirited,
Right.
just because I was really tired of always explaining myself. I would say I'm two-spirited. They'd be like, okay, cool. And even now, people ask me like, oh, are you male or female? And all I reply with now is two-spirited. They're like, okay, well, are you male or female? I'm like, two-spirited.
Google it.
Yeah, and I don't feel the need to explain anymore. If they ask and they want me to verify it, it's great. But I find a lot of people still just want that male or female pronoun with you. It's getting better because everyone has the they and them, which is fantastic. But there's so many people that still just want to put me in a box of male or female. And they
Right.
don't like that I give them two-spirited.
And do you think it's because do you think that will change? And do you think it's because as some populations out there are still getting used to this idea and coming into their own understanding and learning that there is more than just these couple of boxes that exist? Have you seen that in the 4 years that you've been identifying this way and talking about it?
Yeah.
A bit more understanding?
I think it's going to change exponentially because there's so many people that are now identifying as non-binary or genderqueer because they don't see themselves just in that one box. And I feel the more that it's talked about, the more that it's going to be easily understood. There won't be so much like, I don't understand it. I see male, female, and just like, okay, this is a different off topic, but transgendered.
Right.
Or transgender, sorry, I apologize. Before it became on the news more with Caitlyn Jenner, I always used to just be the boy with makeup.
Okay.
Which I was okay with. That was fun. That was great. And then as soon as it started getting talked about more, I work in cosmetics. In case you want to know, they probably know. Then I started getting into my work and they would be like, oh, sorry, ma'am, or sorry, she. And then they started asking if it was okay to call me male or female. So that took a huge turn up to 2 years ago. Because like I said before, I was just a boy with makeup, no matter how put together and how feminine I may have been looking that day. It was
Right.
always a boy with makeup. And now there's so many people asking. They're like, it's cute. Like older people too, be like, I'm sorry, I just don't know what to call you. And I'm like, okay, that was a little abrupt, but I don't mind because you are genuinely trying to connect with me. So I feel since that was a huge change in 2 years, me saying that I'm two-spirited with more people talking about it,
Okay.
or more people learning that it's a term that First Nations like to identify with, then there won't be that block.
And what is the right way to ask? I mean, not to
There's-
for you.
For
Okay,
me, I just feel like just ask. There's a lot of people that say like, oh, how should I call you? And to me, that's not offensive, because to me, when I hear that, oh, sorry, that was me that did that, wasn't it? To me, when someone says that, it just shows that they're trying to navigate this new way of seeing the world, and they're just being genuine. They may not have said it in the most like elegant elegant way, but I just feel like just ask. If it comes out a little bit wrong, then at least you're making an effort.
Yeah.
Just ask me like, how should I call you?
Yeah.
What pronoun do you use?
If it comes from a place of authenticity.
Yeah. And if you're all wondering, I don't have a pronoun. I don't mind he, she, them, they. It's all the same to me.
Okay.
Because once again, gender's dumb.
Right. Did you say gender's dumb?
Yes, gender's dumb.
Okay. Now you can't just say that and let me move on to the next question. Tell us more about why gender is dumb.
I just feel like if there was no gender, then we wouldn't have these people growing up confused. Like someone that was transgender wouldn't worry about growing up male when they're female. It just wouldn't be there. I wouldn't have that little shame of wanting to wear a dress when they tell me that it's female. Like, I just don't understand why inanimate objects have been genderfied. Like, people are going to see me right now, I'm going to be wearing a floral shirt and wearing heels. They're like, that's a feminine attire. But to me, it's just clothes.
Right. And so then things like colors, and that would then lead to roles and relationships and jobs and all of that, that would all come along.
Yeah, because like they say, gender is just socially constructed, right? So it was probably a way to put people in their path or tell people this is the way that you should be acting, when I feel if it wasn't there, there wouldn't be so much suicide with the transgender community or suicide within the two-spirited community. There wouldn't be so much self-doubt and shame that I inadvertently got in by playing with my own head, seeing the news when I was younger. And seeing the news as in like, it was always a negative view on gay people in the 90s. So I remember growing up thinking that that's what I was going to grow up to be. Like with no reference to what a gay person was, I just instantly thought that I was going to grow up to be a bad person. So I think that's probably where like the initial shame started becoming, when I started realizing that I was not the little straight boy that should be hunting with my father.
Right. Okay. And so when we have youth, or we have parents out there, people out there who are thinking about having kids, then what are you suggesting as their child starts on that journey? They're in that journey. Perhaps they grew up within those gender constructs. What would you like to see?
I feel like if you just let them express themselves and just go with it. Like if this young boy wants to wear dresses, go for it. If this young girl wants to cut her hair short, go for it. I don't feel that we should suppress how they want to be seen.
So is Ella an expression, the next iteration, the expression of that?
No, like Ella is me. Like I don't see a difference between Ella and Dustin. There's so much crossover and so much interlink between them. Granted, Ella is a little bit, I wouldn't say she's a little bit louder. Like I can be pretty obnoxious, just as myself all the time. And Ella, I'm pretty sure oversteps the boundaries quite a bit. But it's really weird for me just to even talk about Ella as a third person.
Right.
Because she's not a third person to me. That's just who I am.
Okay.
Yeah.
So so Ella is here, even though Ella is not. Ella's costume is not here. Okay.
Yeah. I wouldn't call it a costume either.
Okay, sorry. What's the right way to say it?
She's just, like I said, she's just a second part of who I am. Someone else may call it as a costume, maybe, but to me, she's not a costume. So
how do you then the correct way to say it is that you're not in drag? Ella's.
Yeah, you can say that, like not in drag, I suppose, maybe.
Okay.
Costume just feels like I'm putting on a
show.
On a show, on a fake thing.
Right.
Granted, I am, because I'm a drag performer, so I am putting on a show. So I can see how
I can see that.
Yeah.
But your explanation that Ella is you. Mm-hmm. So Ella is not somebody that you put away in the closet and then you pull out on a hanger.
Yeah, she's always there. And like the reason why I say that is because doing drag made me more comfortable with my feminine side, made me realize that that isn't something that I'm just going to turn on for show nights. It's actually who I am all the time, which in turn helped me fully identify more as two-spirited, which in turn fully make me identify as just this.
Yeah.
Fabulous in the north.
Fabulous in the Okanagan,
That's
I'd say. So let's talk about drag performing, and when did you first do drag? When did you first acknowledge that Ella was going to manifest in a certain way?
Well, it all started with my friend having a party. He was like, I'm having a drag party. And I was like, this sounds fun, let's do this. And then while I was preparing for it, I got really into it. Like my husband was there, well, he was my boyfriend at the time. I was like, do you want to do this? He's like, yeah, sure. So then I was like, started like doing research, started looking at magazines, started getting dresses, started getting heels. Like I just went full board with it and realized that for this stupid one night costume, I think I spent like $3,000 on me and my husband's costumes. And then afterwards, I was like, I had so much fun. And I was like, I don't want this to just end. So me being unsure with my identity at the time, went to my husband. I was like, do you mind if I keep dressing up as a girl? and he was like, yeah, sure. Like, if this is what you want to do, go for it. And then thankfully, shortly after that, I met my closest friend, Shannon, who is also a drag performer. And then having that drag connection, because at the time it was only me wanting to do drag here, because everyone else just did it for that party.
Okay.
So having that connection of Shannon and that camaraderie, I guess, like him doing drag, I'm doing drag, did it together, started doing a bunch of shows together, and then I just got hooked. Granted, I remember I was more hooked on the adoration at first. I just loved having the attention. I wasn't a big fan of going on stage. I was like, I'm going on stage lip syncing to other people's music. I'm like, how much talent is that? I'm like, and then I had to stop myself because I would go to drag shows and I would love it. I would have such a good time. But when I was on stage, I always felt that it was forced, it was contrived, it wasn't that amazing. But then I had to take a step back, and when people told me that they enjoyed it, I had to remember that I enjoyed it as well. So I'm gonna say about 4 or 5 years ago, when that took a turn, where I realized, like, okay, they're loving it. I need to step out of myself. And I think after I did that, my performances started getting a little more fluid, a little more comfortable. Things started like, I don't know, just being more fluid. It just started flowing a lot more smoothly.
Yeah.
And
You said there that you in the beginning, you think it was the adoration that you...
Oh, I don't think. I know it was the adoration that
I
I
was
liked.
being polite. It was the adoration, and I wonder if it goes back to something else you said, which is opening yourself up and creating that community and that acceptance. So maybe I'm wondering if you think, certainly we can say it's the adoration, but it's that people saying, yes, this is okay, we love you, we support you in this, we want more.
It was great, yeah, 100%. I thought like I was going out there, I was throwing something to the world, they were loving it, I was loving it, and it just really helped me like embrace a little bit more of who I was.
So you kind of glossed over it there, but I do know that you are credited as really bringing the drag scene to the forefront in Kelowna. That's incredible. Was that purposeful? I mean, you talked about your personal journey there.
It was purposeful at the time because it was purposeful because Shannon and I wanted to do drag. He was doing drag in Japan for a year beforehand, then he moved back to Canada, and then he met me, and then we wanted to do shows. Well, he wanted to do shows. He was pulling me along. I just wanted to be pretty. But it was funny because when we first started going out, people would ask us, why are you in drag? There's no scene for that. It's like, what are you doing? It's dumb. And we're like, well, we're having fun. That was the main part. And then we wanted to do shows, so then we started funding a lot of our own money into doing shows. Because back then, bars didn't want us to do drag shows, so they charged us for everything. And then what we made from the doors was like minimal. And then now it's great because since drag is on a high, thank you, RuPaul, they like it's so mainstream, and I'm gonna ride that wave for as long as I can because now bars are asking us to perform for them, which is great, instead of us funneling out thousands of dollars to get back $20 kind of thing.
Right. Yeah. But, oh gosh, like I hope it's not just a wave. Like I hope it's...
Oh, me too.
And I'm sure you do too. I realize I know what you're going to say. But you don't think it is, do you? Like, don't you think we're on a new trajectory here, a new way of being?
I don't think it's just a high right now. I do feel that as long as there's great performances, there's great shows, there's going to show that it's a valid form of entertainment, then it will stay around.
Okay. Yeah. What is a misperception that people may have about drag performing?
I think like a lot of people think that drag is just like filthy, and a lot of people tend to think that it's sexual, maybe even. But unless you've done full drag, you realize that there's nothing sexual that you feel about being corseted in and like pads everywhere. And granted, I do love wearing heels. That to me doesn't bother me. But like you're just wearing so much, and then you're wearing like a lot of makeup and a wig, which in the Kelowna summers, it's very hot here. So the last thing I'm feeling is sexual. But I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions. And I think seeing in the past with like such as Frida Wells with her story time. Sorry, like the main complaint was that they're saying that they're trying to sexualize or showing something to children when that had nothing to do with it. She was just showing her art to the audience, which is fantastic. So yeah, that's the biggest misconception.
Yeah.
Granted, that's probably the reason why I never did story time, because I'm essentially a hoe on stage. But I don't feel sexual. I allude to sex.
Okay. And so, so is there a routine? Like, how do you prepare for so we've heard about the corsets and the pads, but how do you prepare otherwise to perform?
Perform? Well, it was funny. Beforehand, when we were only doing shows once every 3 months, it was more of like a big production. So we started putting more effort into performing, and there would actually be like routines and shows going on, which I should get back to. But now that I'm performing twice a week, sometimes 3 times a week, I'm like, and thankfully it's in a fantastic lounge here in Kelowna, Friends of Dorothy. It's in a setting where things can be a little bit more relaxed, a little bit more freestyled. So I just have to make sure that I look fantastic and keep my signature moves, which I've realized is like the same 4 moves over and over again, just different order.
Oh, I feel like I need to see these moves, but maybe I need to come to one of your shows.
You do, you need to, exactly.
So let's talk about people of color in drag. How common is that?
Sadly, in Kelowna, not super common. I think, God, I don't even know how many like queens are of color here.
Yeah.
It's a very white town. I'm sure you know this.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
No idea. It was so funny. I was downtown with my husband the other day, and he was like, I really love how like culturally diverse Kelowna's getting. And I was like, what are you talking about? Look around you. Like, he stopped and looked. He's like, and then all of a sudden, like, one person of color walked by out of like the sea of hundreds. I was like, Robin, like maybe during school season when all the foreign students are in town. I was like, but right now in the summer, it's pretty white still. But people of color in drag artistry.
Yeah.
There's a lot. Unfortunately, Kelowna doesn't have a super ton amount, but also our scene is still quite small.
Right.
So it's a pretty close-knit family, which is fantastic. And then bigger cities, there's a lot of variation. So
is it because of the scene, or is it because of the demographic of Kelowna? I mean, how likely is it that a drag performer from Calgary or Vancouver is going to be like, of color, is going to say, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go perform in Kelowna. Like, how much does that happen?
It doesn't happen too often, mostly because we don't have big enough productions where we can hire an outside queen. But if it does, like, I'm always into hiring. I hire who I like. And I'm not saying that I like is based on tone of skin, but if you're great and you perform well, that's who I want in my shows.
Right.
But there is some fantastic, talking about Calgary, artists of color there. Artists of color?
Sure.
That I would love to have in Kelowna. Same with Vancouver.
Is
I don't know where to go with that question.
well, yeah, no, I forgot to. I've moved on. Great answer. Is the fact that you're a person of color and you started the drag scene here in Kelowna, does that make it easier? So my question, I guess, would be, if the drag scene was, or the drag culture was established, and you were a performer of color, what are there challenges there?
I don't think there was a challenges there. I think the main challenge was that first we were at then a male dressing as women. I think that was the main challenge to get past.
Main hurdle to overcome.
The main hurdle. But I don't know. I don't feel like in the drag community, maybe it's just my naive sense of weighing because I only have Kelowna to really back up and Fort McMurray when I was up there living for a bit and then visiting other communities. But I just don't feel that drag performers segregate kind of thing. I feel like we're such you find yourself with your chosen family and you find yourself within a realm where you can feel comfortable and then it's all cultures in it. So I don't feel that me being a person of color starting the drag scene was a huge variance of it.
Right. You already
Maybe there wasn't because there has been no other person of color really to perform. We do have a few other natives in town that have done drag, such as Genitals and Sasha says she's native, but I think she's like 1/32nd. Like,
I don't know what to say to that. Okay. But there's no segregation in
no, none.
scene. Oh. Yeah, time for water.
Yeah, time for water.
That's funny. Well, no, I see what you're saying, though. You already are kind of connecting within a community that sometimes can have some ostracization or some discrimination or exclusion. So you're kind of in that safety realm yourselves.
Yeah, because it's all a chosen family. We've all, I'm not going to speak for all drag performers, but the ones that I've known, we've all come from a place of, I don't know how to phrase this. I don't want to say hurt, but from a place of challenges. So it's really easy to connect with other sisters because we've all been to so many different things, and it's easy for us to come into a place, instantly feel safe, instantly feel comfortable, and then instantly feel like you want to grow and build with them. Granted, there's a few people that just don't mesh, but that's human society, right? They have their own families.
Yeah, it's true. It's all of us. So it's easy to be. How easy is it to be fabulous in Kelowna, in the Okanagan?
Very easy. Just find yourself a drag sister and then get yourself going. But at the beginning, I don't think it was super easy. Granted, I thought I was fabulous from the beginning, but when I look at my old photos, I remember thinking, it's like, oh, I don't need a contour, I'm fishy enough. And then reality is like, looking back, is like, oh, no wonder why the stage blanked you out. You had no just definition going on. But I feel like it was probably easy for me to be fabulous in Kelowna because I had such a strong group of friends at the time. I don't know how it would be if I didn't have that same support system. So once I've opened myself up and let myself be loved by others, I think it changed a lot of my outlook and changed my perception of who I can be.
You know, in our conversation here today, I mean, that self-awareness and that self-confidence that I feel was present at such a young age is one of the hallmarks of you on your journey.
Do you want to hear where that came from?
Okay,
sorry
I
to
do.
interrupt you.
Yes.
I was watching Oprah as a young gay boy. And I was watching an episode and someone told her that, she's like, I look in the mirror every day. I tell myself, you're amazing, you're fabulous, you're going to have a great day. So I remember like being 11, telling myself that in the mirror.
Wow.
And then I did that all through high school. And now, like, I don't have to remind myself. I think that's so ingrained in my head that now I get a little cocky and arrogant a lot of times. But like, I personally feel that was a big help in why I grew up so strong and so confident in myself, other than like suppressing my femininity, which I say suppress, but come on, I was running around with bell bottoms, cut jeans,
and the ribbons,
and ribbons coming off my pants. But I was not a girl.
Clearly. But to have that capacity at that age to say, that's what I'm going to do, I mean, where does that even come? Does that stem from your upbringing, from your parents, from small town?
I'm going to say it probably came from my parents, because like, we talked to this on the phone beforehand. I grew up in like a a unique situation where my parents completely lived off the land till a certain amount of time. So like we lived in a cabin at the base of a woods. It was just my mom, me, my dad, and my sister. No running water, no electricity, just 100% off the land, landlocked during the winter. Had to trap all season to get money to live during the summer.
Oh.
So I feel like having that strong family connection there, and my dad always grew me up being like, you have to do this, be strong, know who you are talking about. Other than, I'm gonna say one thing you probably messed me up with. I remember, I'm jumping all over the place now.
I love it.
But like, I remember when I was 10 years old, and my dad sat me down. He was like, you're 10 now, boys don't cry. And like, why am I bringing that up? Anyways, it was a moment of maybe hardening me a little bit too much. Mm-hmm. Like, that's probably when it started just blocking everything out of my life that was emotional.
Right.
Wow, that started fun and then went really dark. I don't remember where we started from again.
Yeah. Well, we're talking about that moment.
Oprah.
Yeah, where you said, I'm going to do this. I'm going to, tell myself I'm, I'm worth it. Yeah. All those things.
And then that strong core. That's right. So, yeah, my father always told me little things about how to stay strong and always believe in yourself. And he would always say, like, a man always speaks for himself, always speaks up for himself. He doesn't cower. So he never told me that in like a malicious tone, being like, you're weak. He never said that. He was just like, we'd be like cutting wood together, and he'd be like, this is what a man does. And I think I took it to heart, and it helped me be stronger growing up. But then I realized that women do all that as well. So why did it have to be just one and the other?
Right.
Maybe that started my fight against gender as well. I don't know.
There are multiple points.
I know, I'm having
origin.
breakthroughs right now.
Okay, so here we are. We're here today. You're sharing your story. Before we wrap up, we talked about being fabulous. We talked about being two-spirited. We talked about being drag performer. You want everyone out there to know about all those things and to know about Dustin and Ella, if they see you walking down the street or performing?
Well, if you see me walking down the street or performing, ask for a photo. Don't get too close, COVID rules. But I don't know, be who you are, live your life, be happy. What do you say again? Sorry.
All of those things, some advice, some wise words. Be fabulous, be who you are, be happy, get a picture with you.
Tell yourself in the mirror that you're great, you're gonna have a great day, you're awesome, and love yourself.
Okay. Where can we find you?
If you want to see Ella, I perform every night at Dorothy's on Friday night. Sorry, did I say every night? I perform every Friday night at Dorothy's, and then I host drag brunch every Sunday. Okay. So that's where you can see Ella. If you want to see me, I do work in cosmetics. You can't super tell right now because I worked all day and I was like, I'm going to put eyebrows on for you, and that's as far as I got. And I work at a Shoppers Drug Mart here in town.
Excellent. Mm-hmm. Thank you for this conversation.
Thank you.
It was great, and I appreciate you sharing your story.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you to everyone who is watching. I hope you join us here every Tuesday for Voices Unheard. We're here at the Canada Hotel, where we have socially distanced space for you to come and join us here in the audience. Thank you once again to Kelowna Pride and Castanet, and I'll see you next week.